Hello Kerbal and welcome to my new series, Mining on the Mun. I'm not entirely sure what name we're going to have for this series. We'll think of something good, witty, or I don't know. If you have a suggestion, let me know in the comments below, and I'll probably use it. Anyway, what we're launching here is a probe, and we're going to get this into orbit around the Mun so we can scan for the ore that should be there. All that cheddar, all that money we can make. So let's get on with it. Alright, here we are getting into orbit around Kerbal, and I'm going to set up a maneuver node to get to the Mun. As usual, set up a maneuver node at the point where the Mun is going to come over the horizon of Kerbal, and you should easily get that intercept. Right, too much. Let's reduce that. Don't want to go crashing into it. Okay, 200 kilometer orbit. I think I'll stick with that. Yes, let's get burning there. As always, get your maneuvers down as much as possible. Go a little bit over here, but this is okay. We can adjust our orbit as we get there. Alright, let's use our warp to here. I always like to warp to before the change of sphere of influence, because then you're not going to, if you skip over it, sometimes it has a knack for over time warping there and you lose your orbit around the Mun or your trajectory, and for some reason you then plowing into the Mun. Okay, we're looking good. I was gonna warp there. I'll kill the node. I forgot to do something. Right, for a scanning probe you want to adjust your orbit so you go into a polar orbit. The scanning probe, the stock scanning probe on Kerbal Space Program, does not work if you go in an equatorial orbit or around the equator. So what you need to do is a pole to pole orbit or polar orbit, and there is good reason for that, because in real life you want to scan the entire surface of the Mun or wherever you're orbiting, and if the planet rotates under you, rather than you changing your position of your spacecraft every time, all you need to do is go into polar orbit. You go from pole to pole, the planet or moon will rotate under you, you go pole to pole again, scan another little area of the planet or planetoid, and hey presto, once you get enough orbit, you get a full map. Okay, here we are, we're doing slight changes. And I think that would work, yeah. All we have to do now is get into a circular orbit, add maneuver node, and we're on our way. Now I did set this a bit high, so in hindsight, I suggest, I'm not entirely sure what the height of the scanning probe has to be, because this is the first time I've done this. So you're on the journey with me, learning as we go along. Okay, first off we're going to do our circularization burn. And it doesn't take much, not when you're around the Mun, because the orbit, the gravity of the Mun is so low, so you don't really need that much fuel. In fact, we ran out of fuel at that stage, and you see on this little tank here we have over 1,700 meters per second delta V. That is plenty for getting our probe back to Kerbal if we wanted to, but this is going to be a permanent fixture around the Mun. Right here I decide, well, 200 kilometers is a bit too high, let's get it to 100 kilometer orbit. All we have to do now is fast forward to the other side of the planet, as we did by here, do the magic of video editing, and circularize our orbit to 100 kilometer. There you go, perfect circle. Okay. With that done, we'll leave this here and we'll pretend it's going to scan the surface of the Mun while we go and build something. And what we have here is a bunch of probes that are going to smash into the Mun. All they are is probe cores with separatrons on them and decouplers to decouple them from the spacecraft. And we're going to smash them into the Mun. The idea is to recreate the sort of smashing of probes that NASA have done into planets and planetoids, or even comets, to find out what they are really made of. They detect the light and what the vapor and everything comes off them, and they can work out from that what they're created of. Right, this build here, this launcher, was provided to me by someone called Thomas. Now, I'm not going to give full names, I'm not sure if he wants to, but Thomas is a generic name, so if he wants to or not, thank you very much for this design. And he showed me this design, and that's what I'm going to build for you now. This has a lot more Delta V than I really need for this mission, but I thought, why not use it? He asked me if, he built an efficient rocket, if I wanted to use it. I said, yes, why not? And let's showcase it here. Now, the probe cores themselves don't weigh that much, but so I could have built a more efficient rocket, even a smaller one, like I did for the scanning probe, but here we go. This is what we're going to make. This is what we're going to make do with. Okay, you can see it's one center orange tank with a mainsail engine on the bottom, 3 orange tanks on the external decouplers, which will help with boosting it up into orbit. Don't forget the nose cones for the aerodynamics, and don't forget those struts to make sure you're secure. You don't want that rocket flapping around in that wind as we ascend through the planet's atmosphere. And, well, we need 3 engines for this, and you don't want mainsails, you'll say. Yes, they give you all that thrust, but use the skippers once in a while, because they give you enough thrust for getting out of the atmosphere. Unless you're trying to lift something heavy up into orbit, you don't really need anything that big. Okay, I'll do a little bit of staging by here. I'm going to cut that out. I'm sure you all know about the staging, but all we have to do now is add some RCS. Now, Thomas's design had RCS all around, even on the outer rockets. You don't really need RCS on the outer rockets, not for when you're going through the atmosphere, because they don't provide enough thrust to work in the atmosphere. At least I think they don't. I haven't tested it since earlier updates, since later updates, but I don't think they would work that much. Anyway, you can put the RCS on the center tank, because that's definitely going to get into space with the amount of Delta V. And don't forget the RCS tank. I'm plopping it up here because it makes sense. It's in line, it's not too big, it gives us enough RCS fuel for our rocket. And this is basically it. All we need to do is add some launch stability enhancers. And yes, we need a nose cone, or a fairing, to be more precise, because this is going to be unstable if we don't do that. Nothing spectacular. And now we're ready to go. Oh, one more thing. On the launch pad, I realised there was something wrong, something missing off this. Other than just the struts. They were connecting in the wrong place. They were connecting on the fairing. So let's get them on the probe themselves, because that'll be a bit too unstable for this launcher. Okay, with that secure, all we have to do is name the craft. And I came up with, well, I had a look what Russia and NASA named their probes, and apparently they sent impactors called Luna from the Russians and Ranger from the Americans, and all they were impactors, and they were trying to find out if they can intercept the moon. And in the early days, I'm going to put a link in the description below if you want to click on it, look at the wiki. A lot of the missions failed, and I was really surprised with this. And this was the mistake I made. Forgot to put fuel lines on the rocket. But with that done, we can save it and launch. Yes, as I was saying, as we get up into orbit, a lot of these missions failed. And it's not surprising, because if you think about it, launch into another body, if you don't know anything about the physics or the orbital mechanics, you're gonna most likely miss it. So they done all these probes, all these tests, all these launchings to fail, only to learn. And that's a good lesson, because if you fail, you have a chance to do it again. You have a chance to learn, so there's no such thing as a failure. only a successful failure. Is that correct? Is that correct too? Every failure isn't a failure, it's a success. On your way to the full success. Oh, I don't know, I'm making up words. Right. We burnt a bit too much for the no, we haven't. I set up a maneuver node here for an impact with the man. So that's set up. And this is why I added RCS. Because it's a big lumbering rocket and the probe cores don't have that much gimbling. That doesn't have much force for the rotation of the rocket. So RCS is required. Okay, let's get rid of this burn. Let's get this done. And I think on this burn, that rocket is a bit inefficient for a space rocket. And is a bit too powerful for what we really need. I'll show you in a moment. Okay, yep, see? Overburnt it. My mistake. So what we're going to have to do... See, we're going to miss the moon. Going to miss the man completely. So we're going to do mid-course correction. This early on in the mission. What? Why isn't it going backwards? Why isn't it going retrograde? I don't know. There's something wrong with this computer. Something wrong with that computer, sir. So the best thing to do is do this manually, and you can use the Alt key and time warp for physical time warp that enable you to control the rocket if your rocket's going to be rotating quite slowly. Okay, so we're going to point retrograde by here. All we need to do is burn that little extra till we get an intercept with a man. A direct intercept with a man. And we're ready. Let's go. Okay, before we go and show off the impactors, let's learn how scanning ore works. Okay, so this is the first time I've done this. Right, perform orbital survey. And there you go, the dish is opened, which is clipping our solar panels. Not a good design. But we haven't got enough electric charge. If I knew this, I would have put electro batteries on here. Because it appears to take a lot of charge. But we do get enough charge, and we get our scan at the end of the day. Solar panels, and it brings up the map. Okay, so what have we got to do? Well, I was trying to look for the menu. Alright, if you have to double click on the mun to get it all up. You've got all these color grain changes. I like the heat one, which gives you red for a lot of ore, and then light green for not so much ore. It gives you a real perspective on how much is there. Okay, and going through the menu and what you can see. Yeah, if you use the line, it shows you two hotspots, a red on the top, it doesn't show up on the smooth setup, and down there in the middle on the equator. So we'll have to plan on how we're going to best approach this, where we can mostly use that. Anyway, one thing we have to do, and that's smash those probes. Now, I did think about perhaps naming this after subscribers, but I wasn't sure if people would be happy if their names being smashed into the mun, or their faces being smashed into the mun. So I thought I'll leave the name the same. Lunar Ranger. And what we're doing here, I've set up a maneuver node, decouple it, and I didn't know these square probes don't have any gimbling, don't have any reaction wheels on them, so you can't maneuver them, so you can't control them. So you have to set the main rocket to point at that maneuver before you set them off. And each one, ooh, look at that raw power coming from there. Each one at about 2,000 meters per second. Well, they are small light probes, and those rocket separatrons have quite a bit of thrust for this size. So number 2, we set the maneuver. This time I use the RCS to back off, because those separatrons cause heat on the rocket, on the main craft, when you don't want them too close. So number 2 is on its way at over 1,000 meters per second. Can't read this properly because I had to reduce the resolution of my preview on this video. And oh, we're coming close to missing the moon. Whew. We're gonna do a side hit. Okay, next one. What's this? Number 4 WIKI. Again, thrust away from the rocket, and then stage. Oh, we're gonna miss. Oh, that was a close one. That was actually planned. I've seen with the maneuver node that it was going to miss the moon until we give it enough thrust. But final, number 5. Mambo number 5. And off we go for another impactor. And I totally guessed this one, and my guess was absolutely wrong. We were missing the man on this one. This one is going to go off into interplanetary space. My maths wasn't with me that time. So now we can watch them all impact the man. First one, I wasn't sure what we're going to expect. Let's slow it to time warp 1, and even at normal speed, we're coming here quite fast. In fact, I think the final speed may be 3,000 meters per second. I did have the OS on-screen display on at this time. But I impacted under the terrain. It's quite mad. I wish things like that would actually leave a dent in the man, or in the planetary object. I suppose it'd cause a lot of data required for rendering the man and everything. But here we go, number 2, and a smash. And we're traveling at over 2,500 meters per second. Phenomenal speeds. And here comes the side hit. At over 3,000 meters per second. Was it? I can't read it properly, sorry. Yeah, you can read the numbers off yourself. Okay, number 4 this is. I'm not too sure on the position, and we're going over the horizon of curving there, which if they were using telescopes we'd miss the data coming from this. Smash comes another one. I know it all seems silly, but really, in real life this would give you excellent data. And probe number 5, which is totally missed. Ah well, what are you gonna do? As I said, every failure you learn something new. So it's not a complete failure. Okay, yeah, it's gonna go into a low orbit between Eve and Moho. Okay, I've had this probe left. What are we gonna do with it? It serves no other purpose, so we could actually crash it into the man. In reality, NASA wouldn't do this with a full fuel tank, as we have here, because the fuel in that rocket would cause, inaccurate readings. Most impactors, they don't plan to impact, but the ones they do, as we come in for the final approach of this probe, the ones they do, they make proper impactors for, are made of just metal, and they plan it out so they know what's on it when it impacts, just like this. So they know what materials they're reading. And quickly, and the last part is a bit of debris. Anyway guys, if you like this video, hit that like button. Next video we'll be building a space station to put it in orbit around the man, and the first surveying missions. So if you enjoyed this, hit that like button, comment below if you want to know something more or something less. Trust me, I'm an engineer.